that we don't have nicer weather for this, that we don't have nicer weather for today for this talk, but if there's nicer weather, you might not be here. So that's also fine with me. So a couple questions that I thought I'll give you a minute to think on by yourself silently. And then if you want to share, I'll have you share. What is your favorite outdoor activity? And if you have a couple, you can say it, say a couple. And then how does it feel when you're doing that? Like, what are the emotions? What are the feelings in your body that you experience? And what does it like provide to you? Like, is there something it gives you or something that maybe it takes away? And then on the flip side, how does it feel when you're inside or not near nature for an extended time? What do you feel like, again, in your body or emotions or, you know, thoughts or, you know, full body experience? So I'll give you a sec to consider that. And then I'll open it up in a minute here. All right, does anyone have a favorite outdoor activity? And it doesn't have to be winter or raining or whatever, just any time of year. Walk dogs around the neighborhood. Ugh. That's one of the things that I don't do enough, and that every time I do it, I'm like, I should do this. Thanks, Mackenzie.
I got a tricycle last year for Mother's Day, so I've been enjoying riding that.
That's amazing. Like, does it have like a basket too?
Yes,
So
yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Melisha. Evelyn said she likes to walk around the lake, any lake, ultimate frisbee. Oh, nice. Do you live by is there a lake that you typically go to, Evelyn? Ultimate frisbee, thanks, Jessica. Again, it's been a minute since I've played ultimate frisbee. Kayak downstream. Thanks, Casey. Hiking and swimming. I too love to kayak and Nokomis. Thanks, Evelyn. Nokomis is so pretty and it's quieter than the other Minneapolis lakes, I find. Kayak, my old dog used to come with me. Now he passed away last summer, and now we have a slightly larger dog. So I don't know if he's going to be into it or not, but we'll see.
Is he gonna? Do you have a big kayak? I'm gonna be fit in my kayak.
I mean, my old dog was like 18 pounds, so he was small, and Lando is about 35 pounds, but he's mostly limbs. So I think like if he doesn't look that big, it can hold his weight. It's more just, I don't know how awkward he's going to be.
Hopefully steady and still, or else there's some balancing issues.
Oh yeah, we'll see. But he's awkward, and I have a feeling he would hate the water more than I do. So he would do his best to not fall in. How does it feel when you get to do all these wonderful outside activities? Like when you're walking or looking at the lake, kayaking, or hiking, especially, I was thinking. What are some of the things that it provides for you or takes away? Any emotions that come up? Gives me energy, relaxes me. It's peaceful, yes. Nice, straightens my back and gives more energy flow, energizing. I love how people say both energized and relaxed, right? Because you can be both at the same time, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You could definitely, well, actually, I'll ask you guys, in what way are you relaxed? And in what ways are you energized? Does anyone want to try to give words to that experience? maybe I'll give you my words and you tell me if I'm way off. Less fatigued, more content. Nice. I was going to say, so energized by being less fatigued, right? So nature has this restorative property. Energized when moving, relaxed when not focusing. Nice. Yeah. So relaxed. So being in nature has this restorative effect on fatigue, which I'll talk about a little bit in a little bit here. And it also, so it'll kind of give us more energy, right? That like emotion fatigue gets restored. And so we feel like we can handle more, if that makes sense. And it also relaxes us. It kind of soothes our mind and brings us to the present, which has a lot of like relaxing components. So it can be both, just to clarify, because I know some people might think, well, how can you be energized and relaxed at the same time? And I think Casey said it well too, like energized when you're moving, right? So like physical movement and work, exercise is really good for getting energy. And also, when while you're not moving and you're just taking in the scenery or taking in the sights and being outside, it can relax you. Before I go further, I do want to mention what I'll do actually is I'm just going to spotlight myself. Here we go. Because my slides, the words get a little small if I'm not. Oh, before I forget, how does it feel when you're inside or not near nature for like an extended period of time? Like if you don't get your fill of being outside and all these, all these things that you like to do outside. Depressing, yeah. Yeah, inside for a long time feels normal, especially nowadays, right? I feel like we've all gotten a little too used to being inside. Anxious, yeah. Try and warm on a day like today. Thanks, Mark. Feels like something is missing. Oh, I like that. I like that. Thank you. Yeah. Does anyone else get like stir crazy? Isolated for sure. Sleepy. Yeah. Does anyone else get that like itch to like, you feel like you just need to go somewhere? That's just me. Yeah. Even on like a day like today, I'm like, I just need to go to Target or something. Yeah. Mackenzie, right as Mackenzie says Target. Yes, absolutely. So just doing something, right? I definitely get stir crazy when I don't yeah, like something's missing too. I liked how you said that. Is it Tanya? I always forget. I feel like I've asked you this a couple other times, so I apologize.
Tanya, it's fine.
It's Tanya?
Yeah.
Okay, Tanya, thank you. And so yeah, but like something's missing, right? So that's another thing that nature does for a lot of folks is it almost taps into like a spiritual, it has like a spiritual component to it. And it can lead us to moments of awe and appreciation and keeps things in perspective. So definitely, it's one of those things you don't always know. You can't pinpoint like, gosh, if something feels off or like I need something, but you can't quite figure out what it is, right? And when we haven't been outside for a while or experienced nature, that definitely, or had fresh air, right? That can be it. It's just one of those things we don't necessarily go to. It's not like hungry, or like one of those drives of, oh, I know for sure that this is what I need. It's a little bit more abstract. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of these traits. Hang on, I forgot to open up my notebook, so I remember what I'm supposed to tell you guys. Ashley will admit you. There you go. So when we're talking about studies of green space, right? So this is kind of the phrase that environmental psychologists use to describe like access to nature, like greenery, right? So and that's typically that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about today. And that's typically what people are most interested in is, wow, like why are parks important, right? Or like, why is it that going on a hike in nature, like at a park, it feels nice, right? So when environmental psychologists are studying green space, they're typically looking at natural versus urban environments. And so because they're the most drastic contrast, right? You can find some green space within urban environments, And you can definitely find some forms of concrete, right, within natural spaces. But typically they're trying to look at those two far ends of the spectrum. And so the other thing I wanted to mention is that the two types of interventions that are usually used in these experiments is either they have people go for a walk in an actual park, or they run a study, pre-post study on an actual walk or an actual experience in nature, or vice versa, walking around, a downtown where there's lots of high buildings and lots of cement and concrete, right? So they actually make people experience it physically, or they show people pictures. So they'll either show them a bunch of pictures of forestry and parks and waterfalls and that kind of thing, or vice versa, high skyscrapers, big, warehouses and highways and that kind of thing, to see, tapping into those experiences visually, what kind of an impact it has. So that is how we typically are, that's how we're typically, when we're talking about studies on green space, that's typically what it looks like. So the impacts of nature exposure. So Bilateral did a, oh my gosh, study where you look at all the studies. Hang on. Oh my God.
Meta-analysis.
A meta-analysis, thank you. I was like, gosh, what is that? This is what happens when you get my 4 o'clock brain instead of my 8 a.m. brain, is sometimes those words don't come as quickly. So thank you. I think that was Casey that chimed in. So thank you for that. He did a meta-analysis on looking at, because there's been a ton of studies on this, right? And so in general, we know that access and exposure to nature has positive effects on health. And the lack of exposure typically has either like neutral, no effect, or sometimes has negative effect on health. And when I'm talking about health, I'm talking about 3 different things. So the first one that's oftentimes measured is short-term recovery from stress or mental fatigue. So like we were talking about, right? When you're kayaking and all of a sudden you're feeling like more energized, or just being in nature, sitting at the park, you're kind of feeling a little more energized. It's because you're kind of getting that recovery from fatigue that you've been experiencing. Another is actual physical recovery from illness. And they've found, so, just being outside and having fresh air actually improves physical health as well as mental health. And then lastly, long-term improvements on both overall health and mental well-being. So general well-being. So just overall life satisfaction tends to go up when you have more exposure to nature. Springfest is canceled. Thanks, Mark. We should really talk, we should have some of the higher ups here today to see why we need Springfest, right? So those are the general benefits that typically come out. So I wanted to go over a couple more specific studies that I found really fascinating. So Fleury and her colleagues, I think it's a she. Fleury and their colleagues, I'll say, took a look at emotion and behavior resilience in kids in England. And what they found was that access to both parks and playgrounds predicted lower misconduct, so behavioral issues, lower peer problems, and also lower hyperactivity. And so the hyperactivity makes sense, right? Especially if we're looking at a playground, you can go and burn off some steam. But what I thought was so fascinating was that it had these social benefits too, of social regulation with peers, as well as kind of the misconduct, some of these behaviors, right? So not that kids and dogs are the same. I'm going to preface that now, but I've noticed with both my kids and my dog, that if you keep them busy, right, and they have access to a way to burn off that steam, they do get in less trouble, right? They'll kind of keep themselves busy in ways that aren't necessarily productive if they don't have access to something like a park. And that's exactly what they found. And so, and just as a side note, they looked at 3, 5, and 7-year-olds. So these were actually pretty younger, like kind of younger kids that they found this in. Next, I found one that was actually a study on Wisconsin, and which I just put in here because I thought it was interesting. It's more for Mark than anybody. But Bayer found that there was, they looked at like the percentage of green space in neighborhoods. And what they found was that the higher percentage of green space within a neighborhood predicted lower levels of depression, anxiety, and stress. Now, I'm sure Wisconsin will have Spring Fest. You know it. Can anyone tell me what might be wrong with this study? If we're looking at depression, anxiety, and stress, and all we're looking at is like percentage of green space or access to parks. And I'm sorry, they didn't do a regression, they did a correlation. So I don't know if that helps. Yes, correlation isn't causation for sure. Is there a third variable issue here? These are the kind of questions I get to ask psychology students that I don't get to ask with everybody. Yeah, Casey, I'm sure Casey knows that regression is causation. It's more causation than correlation for sure. Kind of predicts the directionality of it. But can anyone think of like what else, what the third variable, what might mediate this kind of relationship? Oh, Mark. What kind of neighborhoods have more access to parks? Or do you think they're wealthier or yeah, richer ones, right? And yeah, better neighborhoods, right? More wealthy, like they have more resources to dedicate to land for parks. Suburbs, yeah, exactly. Thank you, Evelyn. So where do you think, what kind of neighborhoods do you think typically have higher levels of stress, depression, and anxiety? The richer suburbs or neighborhoods in near urban? Yeah, right. So I just want to point that out, right? There are studies, and I actually honestly can't remember if this one specifically did or not, but it's something I wanted to just make sure I pointed out, that there are other correlates with depression, anxiety, and stress, and also other correlates that come with neighborhoods that have more green space. And I can't remember if Bayer did this or not, but there are studies that, you know, what's the word? Hang on. Control for that, right? When in their analysis, they control for those variances in their population or in their study. And these results are still demonstrated. So it seems like nature has positive impacts on stress, anxiety, depression, whether or not you're in a poor area or in a rich area. So it's not necessarily just because, oh, these people have easy lives. It's actually the more, it actually is the nature that's kind of causing it. And so Wood actually looked specifically at urban access to green space. So there's a lot of studies that show that urban areas, like I believe this is Central Park. I'm going to Burnsville, we have no parks. Oh, Malaysia, I'm sorry. I grew up in Lakeville, and there's a pretty park down the freeway if it's still there. Ritter Farm Park. Burnsville does have a lot of buildings, so I can commiserate with that. I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay, so Central Park. So we know there are lots and lots of studies. It's been like repeated that urban access to green space is important. So green space is good for our health, and we can find ways to implement it within urban areas, right? So Central Park is a beautiful example, preserving space for people to have free, open access to get their nature fix, right? What I found interesting about this study was that Wood actually looked at biodiversity, was the word, which just like it sounds is how many different kinds of plants and different kinds of greenery there were in different parks. And what they found was that, this well-being and decrease in anxiety and, increase in resilience that they're seeing when people go to parks actually increases even more when there's a bigger variation in the kind of greenery people see. So it's more than, I think the title of the study was Not All Green Space is Created Equal. And I thought that was so fascinating that it's, not just flowers or not just trees or not just water, but the more diverse the greenery is, that the nature is, the better these effects, we see these effects. Office Space, not the movie, but another 90s reference. But an actual, I think it's Nieuwenhuis. I think it's a Dutch last name. Because the study was done in Holland and Sweden, I think were the two European countries that they did this in. But they looked at two opposite trains of thought on what an office space should look like. So one of them is the clean space and one is the green space idea. So the clean space is kind of this like bare bones, don't have any pictures on your desk, just clean lines, keep it all nice and neat, well organized. And the green space obviously is green, having plants and having, overlooking places of nature, but really it really was looking at bringing plants into the workspace. And what they found was, hang on, let me just make sure I have this right. Oh, I'm sorry. Green versus lean offices. Clean, I think is what I said. Lean, like lean, bare bones. They actually found that greenery increased work engagement, workplace satisfaction, and concentration, as well as perceived air quality, which I thought, well, yeah, of course, right? If you have a lot of green around, it feels, and it probably is better. A lot of the houseplants that we buy at Home Depot actually do clean the air pretty well. And so perceived air quality, but all these positive benefits of that, managers and higher ups, want from their workers in these workplaces, work satisfaction, concentration, and work engagement. So, so it kind of has this ability to tap into, it seems to have some sort of greenery seems to have some sort of ability to bring us our whole selves into the present, right? Into our environment. So, that was it. Okay, so any questions on any of those studies? Ooh, do we know if the effects are found with fake plants? I don't know. That's a really interesting question. I have some theories, but what do you guys think? Here, I'll unspotlight myself for a second. How do I do that? Oh, remove. Does anyone have a guess? Yes, but weaker. Agree with Mark. Yeah, probably, right? If you have both.
I think even if they're fake, they do have some sort of effect on our brains. As far as looking at them, and the color of them relates to the outside in our minds. So even if they're fake and they're not even, even if they're fake, our brain will still perceive it as real just because of the relationship it has with the outside.
Right. Thank you, Tanya. Tanya, that's exactly what I was thinking too, was that the actual sight of green, whether it's actually real or not, it'll cue our brain to think of being outside. Just like having your phone on your desk will cue your brain to think about what's on that phone, right? Having something, whether or not it's fake or real, will actually get us thinking about the outside. I will say that I know, hang on, I'm gonna spotlight myself again. There are other benefits to having potted plants. And so one of them is purpose, actually, which is, a positive psychology kind of area of study, that having potted plants gives you something to care for. And so they actually found, it was a study, gosh, it's been a while since I saw it, so I can't remember who did the study, but I can definitely find it for you all if you're interested. But they took a look at purpose in life and longevity in elderly. And they found that if someone has a potted plant in their room that kind of needs them to take care of it, that actually increases longevity, because it's giving them a purpose to get up and take care of something, right? And you see that effect stronger with like animals and pets and that kind of thing, or loved ones or family. But just something as simple as having a plant that you need to take care of and water can actually have other psychological benefits too. Should have used my plant mom this afternoon. Nice. That was something, I know a lot of us got into it in the pandemic, but I definitely got into plants during the pandemic, and now I have so many because I figured out how to like propagate them, and now they're all over my house. But I don't mind, because it does feel really nice to have green in your space. Are there any other questions on those before I go into the psychology of why this seems to have this effect? Okay, if you think of them, you can hold on to them, or you can jump into the chat, that's fine. So why is it that nature impacts us so strongly, right? So we talked at the beginning about our personal experience, and yeah, like it's really great and it's important. And I love going hiking. I love walking my dogs around the lakes, et cetera, et cetera. It feels nice. It feels relaxing. The studies show us that, yeah, it does actually have that impact, right? So we know that it's been empirically demonstrated with research that these effects do actually happen. So why, right? Why is it? So there are a couple of theories as to why. So the first one is that being outside, especially things like parks, those, like it's a destination where it actually promotes social interaction. And so it to me, it looks like one of two things. So you think of the playground, right, where you kind of show up and you meet up with people, and if you're a kid, right, and you find your friends and you play around or you make new friends. It also kind of, to me, it looks like the dog park. If you have a dog, right, you just end up having these conversations with random strangers, and you're all kind of there for the same reason. And so it feels like you have an in-group within this context of being outside. So there's social benefits that come with being outside, and it's just that, same with like walking your dog, right? You see other people walking their dog, and it just feels like it feels like community. It feels like community. The other thing is it promotes physical activity. And so we know physical activity is really beneficial for our mental health, and stress management and anxiety and all that stuff. And so, sorry, I just thought of something else I wanted to share. And so, one other thing it does is has anyone heard of the concept of bilateral processing? Maybe. So it's this idea, no, thank you, Tanya. No. Okay, so bilateral processing is this idea that when we have, let's say, I don't know, a big decision to make, let's say like, oh shoot, do I want to take this job or not? Let's just put that out there, right? And gosh, there's pros and cons to both, and I don't know what I want to do. If you go for a walk, it'll actually, anytime you're using both sides of your brain, right? We've got two sides of our brain, that I know you know. When we're using like our left foot and right foot, or our left hand and right hand. So if you're like tossing a ball. If you toss a ball back and forth between your hands, anytime you're using both sides of your brain, you're actually processing that information more quickly. And so that's why it seems like every time I have an issue that I can't quite wrap my head around, if I go for a walk, there's some magic that happens where I'm like, oh, this doesn't seem like such a big issue, or it feels like the decision is a lot more clear, or at least I've, gotten further in the decision-making process than I was before the walk. And if you're at a park, right, typically you're walking if you're able, or at least using more of your body than you do when you're inside. And so the more of your body that you're using, the more likely you are that you're using both sides of your brain and moving that information more quickly. So I love this, this quote that nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished, right? And so I was thinking about this. I'm like, why is it? So I'll share this with you. I did my first self-care retreat last week with a group of people who work at a shelter downtown. And all they wanted to do was be outside. And if you remember, last week was not like beautiful out. It was pretty gross. It was windy. We had that crazy like thunderstorm overnight where there's like tons of lightning. But we were on a lake, and people wanted to go for walks around the lake and go hiking. And they felt like really restored them. And so it was so fascinating that to me, because I started thinking about this presentation, I'm like, well, gosh, why is that? And we talked about how when people need like to be restored emotionally, right? So the kind of people that come on a self-care retreat, right, typically need one of three things. They need stillness, silence, or solitude. And sometimes some combination of the three. And I thought, I wonder if there's something about being in nature that gives us all three of those, right? And so I started looking into this, like, why is it that nature has this beautiful impact on us? And there's a few reasons. So not only the physical activity and the socializing, right? Although those are great. Oh, thanks, Mackenzie. That, socializing and working out are great for our physical and mental health, period. Always. That's something that you'll find over and over again. But for me, I was like, that didn't feel like it was enough of an answer. And that's a big part of the theory as to why parks are correlated with well-being. And I thought, no, I feel like there's something more, right? And that's something like Tanya, sorry, my daughter's teacher's name is Tanya. And so when I look at your name, it's Tanya.
That's fine.
So like Tanya said, that it just feels like something is missing, right? Like there's something bigger. And abundance in our brains, food, water. I always figured nature cued abundance to our brains, food and water and such. I bet that is the something more. Thank you, Casey. Yeah. So there's a few things. So there are studies that show that being out in nature can inspire these awe moments, right? So going out and just feeling like the wonder of what is the earth, right? And what is nature? And we came from nature, and like it kind of gives us this awe of abundance. I love that that concept, right? Especially when you're on like a body of water, or you feel like, wow, there's like it just makes you kind of feel kind of small, right? And it just has this feeling of kind of overwhelming appreciation for where you're at and what you're experiencing. There is something too about the way water moves, right? So like rhythmic motion is also, so like things like yoga and dance and such. And there's, tapping, and there's a whole bunch of other places where you can find this in psychology, that rhythmic motion cues our brain to kind of is relaxing, right? So kind of that back and forth. Same with like babies, right? How babies love to be rocked, right? It's and it feels nice. Like if you sit in a rocking chair, it feels relaxing, right? And it's soothing. And so, there are theories as to why that is, that we came from the water, right? That we evolved from water beings. And so we find ourselves at home near water. But it also, there's a whole lot of reasons, but there's something about watching water and waves and hearing it in that rhythmic motion that feels really soothing to the human brain for some reason. And lastly, being in nature, so it kind of goes with that awe piece, but it gives us perspective on other issues. So when I was doing the research for this, I read this story about this guy, and he went like he was going to Alaska for the first time, and he went with a guide to go hiking, and the guy would go into the forest and he would just sing, and he's like, what's going on, you know, and he would just constantly be making noise and singing, and he's like, well, yeah, you know, there's huge Kodiak like grizzly bears here, and you just don't want to scare them. So you don't want them to feel like you snuck up on them, and so that's why you're supposed to like sing and kind of make like a constant noise, so that if there's one around, they don't feel like you kind of are coming up like behind them to attack them, right? And sure enough, as they were singing, they kind of came up to a stream, and there was like a Kodiak that was, you know, looking for trout or whatever. And but he kind of knew that they were coming. And so they kind of stood still when they got there, and the bear just kind of walked away and left them alone, right? And what I'm trying to say, going back to the topic at hand here, is that when we're in nature and we experience things like this, it's kind of like, wow, you know, like it makes our like cell phones and like you know, gas prices and like all the crap that we deal with every day feel like almost like a different world, like it feels like a world away. And so it kind of gives you appreciation for like what the actual earth, what the actual world is, and kind of gives you perspective on kind of what we experience every day. Does that make sense? And so I loved that story. Thanks, Mackenzie. Okay, so I was gonna have you guys do a practice. I was joking with Mackenzie. The idea here, I was gonna actually make you guys go outside and find a leaf to do this. I'm not gonna make you do that because it's really gross out. So what I would like you to do, hang on, I'm going to unspotlight myself. What I'd like you to do is, we're all hopefully on a mobile or computer device. If you could just Google photos, like close-up leaf photo. Oop, added it to my. Oh. And take a minute to find like one or two that really kind of speak to you. And then maybe do me a favor and just like do a raise your hand or something, so I know that you've gotten it. Oh, look at you, Mackenzie. Nice. She's got her plant. If you have an indoor plant, if you have a real leaf, you'll probably experience a better, bigger impact. So all my plants are upstairs. My plants need some major TLC too. Okay. And then if you're here, I'm gonna do those. Here we go, share screen. So if you're like me and you're here in Google Photo, like in Google Images, right? And you find one that you like, just right click it and say open image, a new tab. So that way you are just looking at the picture, if that makes sense. So you don't have all the other stuff to distract you. Okay. I love that you're taking a picture, Mackenzie. That's amazing. I love it. I love it. Hang on, I got
It's dark in here.
Oh, it's
so dark.
Oh, I see. So you're trying to see. I gotcha. I gotcha.
I do have
There's
pictures,
no judgment.
though. I have quite, many pictures.
All right, I'll kind of assume everyone has found a leaf photo that speaks to them. And so feel free to, yeah, if you want your, I mean, Mackenzie's the only one that has her camera on anyway, but if this is weird to do with your camera on, you can feel free to turn it off. But this is what I call leaf meditation. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a couple minutes to truly appreciate this leaf, okay? So the idea is that you're gonna spend some time with your leaf and really take in some appreciation for it. So the first thing I'd like you to do is just hang on. We're going to come into the present for a sec. So I'm going to help you do that. So if you can close your eyes or bring your gaze downward so you're not distracted by anything, just not looking at your computer. And with your palms facing up, there's psychology behind that too, but I'm not going to bore you with it now. We're going to just take a couple deep breaths together. So it'll make focusing on the leaf a little bit easier. So I'm going to walk us through 3 deep breaths, and there's 3 stages. It's a full exhale, and then we're going to inhale into our stomach, and then inhale into our chest, and then exhale. So I'll walk us through. So just take a minute to feel your feet on the floor or wherever you have them, and feel the back of your legs on your chair. Your hands in your lap or on the table, just feeling coming into your body and kind of noticing your body. Okay, and we'll start our 3 breaths with a full exhale. Inhale, full belly into chest, and exhale. Inhale, full belly into chest, and exhale. Last one, inhale, full belly into chest, and exhale. Breathe normal for a minute. When you're ready, you can open your eyes or just bring your gaze back upward. I always feel like I need to stretch my neck after I do that for some reason, because I start feeling my body a little more. So I'd like to invite you to bring your intentional awareness to your leaf. Yeah, I'm going to pull mine up too. And so if you were doing this with a leaf, or if you have one in your house, in your hands, like Mackenzie does, you can hold it in your hands or just bring it into your hands. You don't have to pick it from your beautiful potted plant, but just bring it to your hands. And notice the colors of your leaf. Notice if there's different shades of colors. There's different colors within it. Noticing if there are colors that fade or bleed in from one to the other. Noticing the veins in the leaf, the main stem, how the veins kind of branch off. And go all the way to the edges of the leaf. Now, if you have a real leaf, not just a photo, I'd like you to feel the leaf, kind of running your fingers over the top and bottom of it and along the edges. And if you're looking at a photo, you can kind of imagine with your fingertips what that leaf might feel like. Are there different types of textures? Are there bumpy spots or smooth spots? And this one you can only do if you have a real leaf. But I'd like you to smell the leaf and notice if it brings any memories up, or if you recognize the scent, or if it feels like something new. And lastly, just look at the leaf as a whole. Notice anything that may have escaped your attention previously. And feel if you're feeling any sense of appreciation or awe for your leaf or what it represents, just allow yourself to feel that another moment. Okay, then you can come back to the I know, I really appreciate that Mackenzie has her plant with her too. It just makes me really happy because that's exactly, I didn't even think to bring a plant down with me. I was like, well, it's raining. I guess I'm not getting a leaf, but I have all these leaves upstairs. So before we chat a little bit about it, I wanted to just say, so the reason I had you practice this was, I don't expect you to do a leaf meditation frequently. I mean, if you loved it, awesome. That makes me super happy for a lot of reasons. But it's one of those, like, for me, there are times where I know it's important to get outside and go experience nature, and I'm stressed out, so I'll just go to the park and walk, right? But I find myself still in my head, and it's really frustrating because I don't want to be in my head and I can't figure out how to just be at the park instead of in my head. And so what I find helpful with this exercise is it kind of gives you a starting point, I guess, of how is it that you can come to appreciate something that's right in front of you. And really it comes down to experiencing things with our full senses, right? So that was the last point, and I couldn't figure out why, like, I couldn't find a source for this, but it made me think, like, there's something about being in nature that ignites all of our senses kind of all at once. And we are so often in our head and not in our body, right? Our senses are all in our body. They're experienced in our brain, but you have to use your body to experience your senses. And when we're in our phone or thinking about work or thinking about stress, we're not experiencing our senses. And there's something about nature that if you're doing it right, you're experiencing some sort of sensory experience, right? And so doing something like this leaf meditation helps you cue into all five of your senses, unless, except for eating, right? I didn't make you eat your leaf, although you could, maybe, right? Depending on the leaf. Be careful before you do that. But I wanted to just give you a starting point for it. Is there anything people want to share about their leaf or what they noticed at all? Was this super weird to do? Has anyone done something like this before? Your monstera leaves are heart-shaped. You've done it before. Awesome, Mackenzie. my favorite time of year to do this is in the fall when you can see like the different colors within a single leaf. Oh, thanks, Tanya. Yeah. She says she picked a picture that had water drops on it. And it kind of reminds you of the smell. I do too. There's something so pretty about. And I almost made you guys go walking in the rain and try to feel the rain and appreciate it. But if you were getting credit for this, I might have. But, you know, you're just showing up to hang out with me on a Wednesday night. My plant needed water and I had some on my desk and I just love the smell of wet soil. Ah, thanks, Evelyn. There's something soothing about wet soil too, isn't there? And again, it's like, I wonder if that's, you know, what's rooted. I always think like evolutionarily, right? Like there's something pleasing about that smell for a reason. And I'm trying to think, you know, if it represents, you know, food and abundance and healthy. Yeah, I don't know. It's got to do something to our brain. It's clearly igniting something, tapping into something. Thank you for sharing, everyone. So that I think that's all I had. Yeah, it's 5:01. Perfect. Wanted to leave some time for Q&A or just chatting. Hopefully August can find us before to tell us about our new course. But
my question is for Mackenzie. Mackenzie, you said that you guys have a YouTube channel, and I know you put something in the chat box, but when I clicked on it, it took me to a school website, not to YouTube.
Yeah, the links are like at the bottom of that page. There's just the little social media icons. But if you search Metro State Psychology Club, it would probably also come up. But you can find our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. They're just the little links at the bottom.
Here, I was gonna say I can show.
Yeah, can you show me? Can you share?
Yeah.
Because I'm looking and I don't see it.
Got it.
Thank
Here.
you.
Mm-hmm. So does it look like this? So when you click on the link, it should look like this, and right down here is a YouTube.
Oh, okay, I see.
Here, look, there I am.
Yeah.
Beat the winter blues. If you missed that one.
Yeah, so we'll put this one up too as well. I guess I have kind of an unrelated, well, somewhat related question. I was just interested if you would talk a little bit more about, I'm assuming you were talking about like the willing hands and then also the breathing practice that you had us do. I'm just curious because this is something I literally was just practicing in my yoga class yesterday. So
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. So so I actually, for one of the organizations that I do consulting with, I had to do a training is like a train the trainer kind of thing anyway. And this was one of the techniques that they taught us. And a lot of it was stuff that I kind of knew, right? So when you breathe, you want to breathe from your belly, and I'll teach you guys that in a second. Because when you're breathing from your lungs, you're actually igniting your fight or flight response, right? Because when you're running away from a bear, you're using your lungs a lot, but when you're using your diaphragm, it's kind of this slow, steady, calming breathing. So that's why belly breaths is important. And I'll tell you why the 3 stages in a second too. The palms up was the one thing I hadn't learned before. And I thought it was fascinating. So when you're getting ready to when you're in fight or flight, and if you're feeling threatened, you're either doing this or like this, right? Like trying to push. If you're doing this, think of like when you learn, when you meet a little puppy and you want to put them, at ease, your palms are up. And so what this is actually doing is it's physically cueing your brain that there's nothing to be afraid of, right? So you're not like prepped already. And one other data point that I found fascinating that I had learned is we know that our brain is talking to our body and our body talks to our brain, right? Like we know that there's a mind-body connection and the communication goes both ways.
Wow,
What
oh
I
my goodness,
what I
Tanya, gotta
didn't
think about
know
this.
was that 80% of the communication that goes between our body and our brain actually comes from our body to our brain. So our body is talking to our brain way more often than our brain is talking to our body. So that's why things like this actually do make such a big difference, is because you're just telling your body like, oh yeah, I don't see any threats, so I don't know why you're freaking out, right? So the belly breathing, the reason for the 3 steps. So the first thing is a full exhale, usually with your mouth. I had a hard time breathing, and then you want to breathe in through your nose is like the best practice. And there's reasons for that, but it really doesn't matter. Don't get hung up on like inhale, exhale, mouth, nose, whatever. It's just, you want a full exhale because you have what they call stale air in the bottom, like the very base of our lungs. And so if you want like breath, like a big, fresh oxygen, full breath, you have to full exhale. And when we don't full exhale and we're doing a lot of up here breathing, that's how you hyperventilate. So the belly breath. So if you put your hand by like your there we go, by your belly button, you want like your belly to move. You want your hands to move. So it's by like, kind of think of like making yourself a Santa belly is how, or like, you know, or you can think of like a baby. Babies are born naturally breathing this way. And then we learn that we're supposed to be skinny and wear belts. So we keep ourselves from breathing from our belly and kind of go up here. And the reason why I have you do a full belly and then a full chest is A, it gives you more oxygen, but B, it really helps you notice if you're breathing, because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm breathing from my belly. And it's not until you have them do the two-step inhale that they realize, oh, I'm actually still breathing from my chest. The other thing too is a lot of people, I taught this last week at the retreat, and someone was like, I cannot get, every time it's like, I feel myself going up. Like I don't know how to breathe from my belly. And what helped her figure it out was laying down on the floor and having her hands on her belly and making them move up and down. She's like, oh, right. So, and it's all it does, all you need is to just practice it and get your body used to breathing that way. And before you know it, your body will just start breathing more from your belly than from your chest.
That's super interesting. I didn't know any of that, but I really struggled with the breathing thing when I tried it yesterday. Like I could not figure out how to do it. I like had to roll down my leggings because I felt like I was a little bit too compressed. And then my yoga teacher says to send your breath down, and so I got a hang of it eventually. But that was all super interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome, Mackenzie. And it's like, it is just it's just practice, like, you know. And so what I started doing is like every time I'm filling my coffee cup, which is pretty frequent during the day, I make myself take like 2 breaths from my belly just to like try to create a new habit where your body starts going to your stomach first or your diaphragm first instead of in your lungs for breathing, because it's just it ignites your parasympathetic nervous system, brings you back down to homeostasis. So it's at the very least, especially if you're like me and you're going between meetings and Zoom meetings, and then you're jumping in the car to go over here and then do this and then do that. In between stuff, just taking 2 or 3 breaths just resets your brain and your nervous system, so you're ready for the next thing. Any other questions?
I guess I could ask another one. I'm just curious because I've been buying a lot of flowers lately. And so usually I buy more plants, like live plants, rather than cut flowers. But I'm wondering if you've read about like if cut flowers have similar effects indoors. Yeah.
I would imagine. I mean, I haven't
happy.
Right. I haven't read specifically, but I would imagine it makes me think of that biodiversity concept, right? That like, and I'm actually a florist, like a trained florist, which I do for fun here and there.
That's so cool.
And it's so fun, right? And I love that smell of like fresh cut flowers. There's something really different about it. And I love like it's like the different textures and the different colors. And so I think it probably ignites a different, it has similar benefits, right? But it ignites like a different part of your brain because, you know, we love seeing vibrant colors and natural colors and different smells and textures. And it kind of reminds us of, you know, fruit and vegetables and, you know, all this healthy stuff that we like to eat. And that's good for us for longevity. So it's always going back to that, like, why would our brains want us to see this?
Yeah, definitely. It is kind of a different feeling with the like greenery versus the flowers. That's the biodiversity thing. That's very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for asking. That's a fascinating thought too. And I would imagine too, there's benefits of like gardening. There's something about like getting your hand, like physically feeling the soil too, which is what made me think when Evelyn was talking about how she loves the smell of wet soil. I'm like, yeah. And I have like a thing about getting dirt in my nails that just drives me crazy. But like, there's something I love about like feeling the like compact, like potting soil and like putting the plant in it. There's something, and then like taking care of it, right? There's a lot. Yeah, I don't know. There's something, I hate to use the word spiritual because people think of that word differently, right? But there is something like a bigger appreciation for nature and something bigger than your normal everyday that we kind of get stuck in. So I'm so excited for spring to be here. Can't wait to go to the garden center.
When does the gardening season start? Are you a big gardener?
They usually say after Mother's Day.
Okay, that's good to know. We tried to do it last year, but I think we started a little late and it was so
yeah, they say
dry.
don't start until Mother's Day, because I remember last year we had a really beautiful April. And it was around this time that it was like in the 60s and I couldn't find plants anywhere. And they're like, don't do it yet, because then, you know, sure enough, first week of April or first week of May, it's like below freezing or whatever, you know. So I think Mother's Day is typically, and for sure after Memorial Day, pretty set. Yeah. I know, I can't wait. Like, oh. This was a really fun topic for me to get to study for you guys. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk with you all about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any other questions for me or for Mark while he's here? I can harass him. Do you still have your background set to Madison, Mark?
Not today. I'm set to psych lab.
Oh, that's right. Set to psych lab. Okay.
Well, see, it's really that spending so much time at home, the last thing I wanted was my house in the background. So that's when I went to the computer simulated background. But today I'm out, sort of.
You get to be out and about.
Yeah, there's nobody
the psych
here
labs
anyway, but the one student who was supposed to meet me didn't show up, and I really haven't seen anyone else.
Are we going back to in-person in the fall?
You know, you got to find some students who will come in person.
I know.
I mean, right now, there's no students coming in person. You want to do a Psych 200 at night? You can do it hybrid. You know.
Maybe. Actually, maybe. I miss meeting with students a lot.
Jessica's doing one in the daytime hybrid, and
okay.
I scheduled another one for the evening hybrid.
I mean, I would.
But I mean, really, I don't have that many classes on the fall schedule that are in person. Not too many.
Yeah. Okay.
Nobody wants to go. I mean, the students won't sign up. Once they start signing up, we'll add more and more the next time. But
I didn't see a lot, or maybe it's just like what I'm taking right now, but I feel like everything is like asynchronous, which is kind of sucks.
Yeah, so last fall we put a whole bunch of classes in person, and like the majority of them were canceled because nobody signed up. And so,
I didn't know
the ones
that.
we've had, I mean, August will say, oh, geez, there's tons of people in my class. They're all happy to be in person. But, and there are, he's got 15 students or something, but the other sections have more than 15 students, and it's rare. I mean, where we've got classes with, I think Carrie has a research methods that might be under 10.
What?
Your social psych is in person too. And I think, I mean, it's pretty full, the classroom space. I mean, it's one person at each table.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, there might be 20 people, but it's still less than online. There's
Yeah.
more people signing up for online. So I don't know.
I do like the hybrid model.
I do too. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Depending on the class, though. Some are, I don't know. Did I do groups hybrid? I think we moved to like hybrid halfway through the semester, and it was like that one. There's some that are a little more fun in person, I feel like, but hybrid is, I feel like, a nice compromise, because those 3.5 hours at night get really long.
Well, there's the two
every day.
kinds of hybrids. I mean, you still go every week, but for a shorter time.
That's what I
Or-
like.
Yeah, well, now they're pushing for the every other week thing. They're
Oh,
talking about making that the only kind of hybrid, but I don't know. I'm not worried about it. They talk a lot.
well, we'll see. We still got time. I saw your
Uh,
email earlier today too.
Tanya's
great.
all in person.
Was Spring Fest really canceled?
Yes.
Or was that a joke?
I don't know, Mark.
What?
Was
Was
Spring
Spring
Fest
Fest-
really canceled?
Yes,
I
it
saw a
was.
flyer,
Email
yeah.
came through About that it's been canceled. I mean, they will, it's like, I bet they won't even tell you guys. It was just in some sort of weird newsletter.
Yeah, I
Oh
didn't.
no,
I
they
didn't know that.
emailed me. They were supposed to email all the people that were gonna table that. We were gonna do it for the dental clinic. That's why I got the email that they cancel it and move it to the summer.
I would.
Oh, Evelyn, did you
There's
get an
a-
email?
No,
was
Lucia
around in the
sent me. Lucia sent me like a screenshot of a flyer going around. Like it's the flyer for Spring Fest, and it says cancel for persistent bad weather.
I would have sent
Oh.
you the email, but I thought you guys got it too because we were supposed to do it. Like the psychology club was supposed to do it too. So I was like, oh, I'm guessing they got it already, but oops.
So
Sorry.
they're doing it in the summer?
Yeah, they move it to
June 10?
June 11.
Oh, 11.
Ju-
Yeah, sure, they're gonna do it. Oh, yeah, it's gonna happen. Count on it.
I have my doubts, honestly, because how many people are really around during the summer? So I really don't think it will happen, but.
Yeah, I mean, they just recently unlocked the campus, right? I mean,
Because
Yeah.
it will be, I think they're thinking it's gonna be that we're gonna have Fall Fest anyway. So I
Right.
have the summer one. So they might be thinking, they might have a good intentions, but I don't know if they're
they
actually gonna
canceled
do
the
it in
Fall Fest last year.
summer.
It was
It's
the
online.
yeah. We just recorded a video.
Oh, yeah, but then they didn't even do what they said they were gonna do.
I didn't see it.
No.
Yeah, no, me
I
neither.
mean, I mean, they're not doing anything over there. Nothing.
Oh, it's so disappointing.
It is sad. I was looking forward to it.
Me too.
Well,
I
we're
mean, they
having our
say-
graduation picnic, so everybody can
The
come to
picnic will
that.
be great.
Yeah,
I know.
What is that?
Thursday, May 19th at
should
Hidden
come.
Falls Park.
Yeah,
Yeah, Laura, you should
I would
come.
love to. May
We've got
19th.
baby.
food, cupcakes. What do
Bring
we
the
say?
baby.
5 to 7.
Yes.
May
I
19th
think
from 5 to
actually
7.
here. I'll give you the link. I got it right here. Yeah,
Hidden Falls.
we did something like that last year, and it was fun. But we got
I
this
know,
one
and I couldn't
catered.
make it then, but yeah, I'll drag the kids with
Yeah.
me. They'll think
Yeah.
it's fun. Like, what? A hidden waterfall.
I didn't see the waterfall there, so it must be really hidden. But it's a really nice park.
Hence the name. Okay. Yeah.
Mark, what time did you tell August to come?
I thought he'd be here by now.
Oh,
So is there a new class that he's like promoting, or is he?
Yeah,
teaching?
so I'll just tell you a little bit about it and then we can go. So there is this idea about potentially creating a new major or program, a major or minor, maybe both, in outdoor recreation, but that it would be geared more towards underrepresented groups. Because, many times outdoor recreation is kind of thought of as a white guy thing, let's hunt, let's fish. Obviously women do it too, and all groups do it, probably nobody does it more than Native Americans, but but there is an underrepresentation of minority groups in outdoor recreation, the use of, just the engagement in outdoor recreation, but particularly in the business of outdoor recreation, which is really a huge industry in the state of Minnesota.
yeah.
And so it's actually been kind of pushed by a couple of people from industry that Metro State should do this because of the larger proportion of students from underrepresented groups, to try to encourage them to get involved in outdoor recreation. I don't know if it's, something that will catch on or not. The idea was, I suggested to August that he start with a course and
Yeah.
really think about what that course should be. The course is called Multicultural Outdoor Recreation. It's listed in the schedule for fall under a new acronym, OREC, OREC, short for Outdoor Recreation 300. So it would be, eventually would be the entry course or the main course for this particular program.
Okay.
I'd like to see it more maybe as a minor than, or as much as a minor as a major, just because I could see a lot of people tagging it on. Maybe if you're already in business, doing something like this could be a really nice addition, to just take a few classes. Obviously, lots of people in all sorts of areas have room for another 20 credits or whatever, particularly now with the transfer pathways, people seem to transfer in more efficiently. Obviously, if you're in a high course major like accounting or urban education or something, pretty much all your credits are accounted for. But a lot of other majors, there is space to kind of work it in. And so that's kind of what he's working on. And I think the course is scheduled in the fall for Monday afternoons in person. And August is going to teach it. And so it'll be, hopefully you'll have a lot of guest speakers and some field trips and stuff. But, I kind of, if he was here, he could maybe give some more specifics, but that's what I know. So it's a first course kind of in a way of getting some students involved and getting their input into, whether this program would be useful or how it should be sort of pitched, or what sort of perspective it should take in terms of sort of satisfying people. It's hard now, it used to be you'd go where students are hanging out and ask them. And but now it's harder, it's harder to find students to talk to. So, I think the dean had really wanted him to get the whole thing started up and the whole program approved, or certainly in the approval process by now. But things are just moving too slow. There's just not enough people around.
I think it's a great idea. If not just the outdoor part of it, it's a catch, but also getting to know other students from different backgrounds and different probably degrees than we do. I think it's a great way to do it. In making a course is even better because they have to show up for the credits anyway. So I think that's great.
I've been looking for something like that because I'm a transfer student and I have a bunch of electives. Like that's all I have left for the next year. So I'm definitely gonna look into that because that sounds really fun. And we'll like invite him to the picnic and maybe he can pitch it there too. So
Yeah, if we feed him, he'll come. You know, I don't know where he is. He's actually just sent an email. He CC'd me right now on an email he sent to people over at the prison. Like, I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, I've had him call into Zoom meetings. So well, I'm pretty sure he was driving before. So, I mean, but he came to the last picnic. He brought his
Yeah.
game.
Oh, he'll
so,
come to the picnic for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that sounds really fun.
It does, which means nice weather and no rain, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. So anyways, that's all I've got.
I sent
Alright.
you guys an email about the cancellation of Spring Fest.
Oh,
Just
thank
if
you.
you want to get, so.
I had no idea. Good to know. Thank you, Laura. so
like I
much
say,
for-
I thought that she will send it to you guys because you were gonna do it for the club, but whatever.
the end
At
of the
least,
semester.
at least the word got out here. Yeah.
I mean, Tanya's pretty much at the center of everything at Metro State, you know, so she's always the first to know.
I try to be. I mean, as a staff, you cannot get those extra emails anyway, so I try to be, but
This is
still.
a good person to know.
She is really, that's really true.
So even if I graduate, I'll still be around you guys. So whatever.
Well, thank you all for coming today.
Yeah.
This is a fun group.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah. Oh, and
Thank
good
you.
luck to the the end of your semester. And yeah, I keep forgetting that we're getting close to the end of the semester because the weather's been so horrible. I'm like,
Yeah.
it just feels like we're in March still, but no, we're not.
It's like fall semester, but
Yeah, I mean, I thought Saturday was supposed to be the nicest day of the year so far, and then they canceled Fall Fest. I
well,
don't know.
it's supposed to be warm, but
Spring
it's
Fest.
supposed to rain,
Right.
73 and storming.
74, yeah. Mhm.
which makes me
saw that.
think why not move it indoors? But I guess you just don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't think it's worth it to be indoors anyway, but
Yeah, it's not as fun.
No.
uh,
Thank you, everybody.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, nice to see
Bye.
you all.
have
Yeah.
a great
Bye,
one.
everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see you soon.
Thank you.